Hey guys, it's Erin Anderson here with Live, Thrive, Empower. I am so excited to be doing this webinar, Santa, I Want a Money Mindset. Noah Gorin is the money mindset person to go to. She really has it down pat. The stuff that she's talked to me about, the stuff that she's already told me has really been amazing. And I thought that you guys could really learn so much from Noah. She lives in Israel, which is really exciting, which is really awesome. And I want to go ahead and turn the time over to her and let her tell you a little bit more about herself and what she does and how she came into this field and how she knows what she knows. So here she goes.
Thank you so much, Erin. And so good to hear that you've actually had a chance to try on for size what we've been talking about. So I'll tell you a little bit about my first encounter with the law of attraction and money mindset, and generally speaking, the way that we weren't taught to think. We're taught to think that hard work produces results. And the first time that I encountered it was when I was 19. And I just had this dream. It was just kind of something that I would just hold as a thought in my head, that I wanted to be this big executive. Didn't matter where, didn't matter what I would be doing. I just imagined the office and, the computer and how important I'm going to be and how I'm going to have all these meetings and people wanting to, get a little bit of my time. And the mindset that I was doing it in was very playful. It was, wow, this is going to be fun. I had nothing but positive feelings about it, even though I was like, okay, that's going to be years and years from now. I'm just 19 and, I don't know anything. I haven't started learning anything. And I was working at the time as not a receptionist, as part of call center / receptionist at this computer selling firm. And this one day I just got back. It was the beginning of the week. And I got back and my boss calls him into his office and he goes okay, our HR manager, just been fired and I'm promoting you to become our new HR manager. And the company had somewhat around 75 employees at the time. And all of a sudden I'm just that's it. This is your office. These are the meetings you have for today. And it was exactly what I dreamed. And it just came to be in this kind of serendipitous way. I don't know how else to refer to it. But the thing that I was aware of at the time was that this was exactly something that I have, seen in my mind's eye before. And what I was, starting to think was that, hey, something weird can happen when you're just, thinking about stuff. And I was still not sure, what's the actual recipe? What do you actually need to do? What was just, fun to have, and what was mandatory to make this magic happen? And obviously it got me very intrigued, and I started, working with different things, manifesting different things. And what I did become very much aware of is that mindset is almost everything. So I've actually seen you, Erin, talked about it a little bit, about how our attitude determines, so much. You've been talking about gratitude lately and about the actual, actually, we can just put it as mindset, the mindset that we are in. And that mindset is it attracts everything, not necessarily the things we want. But if we are actually, looking forward, and the topic is, manifesting some extra money for Christmas, or just whatever it is that we want for Christmas, then I would definitely say that leave everything else aside, and the first thing you want to be doing is working on your money mindset. Yeah. So obviously I've been exploring it for over 13 years now. And I've come across a lot of interesting methods and tips and tricks, and I'm really looking forward to share some of them with you today. And what I do want to start out by saying is that if there's too much information, and I think there's a lot of information out there regarding what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, all these people that have very good, solid advice, give you all this ways to be and not to be, to think and not to think, what to write, what to do. And what I would have to say is, while all of this is good and well, if you can just pause and get to this calm, knowing place, then this place that says, okay, everything's fine and it's going to get better, something good is going to happen, then magical things start to happen from that place. And we'll talk about how to get to that place in a minute.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're spot on there, because I know for me, like, my brain can go like 1.5 billion miles a minute, you know what I mean? And I've got all these thoughts coming in, and if I'm trying to solve a problem, I can be like thinking of all these different ways and all these different reasons why it's happening, and it just goes, the craziness. But it's when you are still and quiet, that is when answers come. That is when that inner wisdom kicks in, and it's like, oh. And I was actually talking about this just yesterday in my Truth Tuesday that I posted on my page. One of my biggest wonders with money, because, I'm definitely not attracting the amounts that I want in my life right now. But I realized I was actually putting money over integrity in my clients, because I was like, they can't pay, it's okay, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I was quiet and stopped wondering and worrying and how do I do this and how do I do this, that it was like, oh, you know what? I'm out of balance here with money and integrity. And, that's exactly what you're saying. You've got to figure out, if you're going to figure out abundance, it's not going to happen in the chaos, because chaos is the lack mindset right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally agree. What happens is that we get absorbed into kind of a vortex, and sometimes we get so absorbed that we're just. For me, it feels like you get pushed out of it at some point. Even if you really want to stay in it, your mind goes like, okay, overload, and at that point something shifts, and you sometimes have this glimpse of like the different way to be, to act, to think. And it's interesting that you bring integrity into it, because I think that one of the most important ways that we can change our mindset is to understand like what money is really meant to be. It's a tool, and it's a tool designed to help us express ourselves and live our lives. And it's not the tool. It's one of the tools. It's a great tool, but it does come to a point where we're developing a kind of a relationship with it of, no, it's not good that I ask for it. It's not good that I have too much of it. We get all these sort of like intricate relationships with something that's supposed to be, just a tool that helps to help us express our lives and like express ourselves, live to the full potential that we as human beings can.
Well, you're right. It's a measurement of where your relationships are at, and if you've got relationships that are out of order, it really makes it hard to manifest the money. I mean, one of the things I talk about in, my clients and with my coaching and stuff like that is the abundance is the very bottom tier of this set of relationships, actually. And if we're blocked in, if we're sitting there saying, I can't afford it, if you follow that back up the tiers, how is that manifesting for you in your relationship with others, your relationship with self, your relationship with God? For example, if you're saying I can't afford it, and you look up, you just kind of start looking up the tiers, that translates to I don't trust people in, your relationship with others. I don't trust myself in relationship with yourself, and I don't trust God in some senses, because he's the ultimate provider. So
exactly.
So you've got to be able to, the abundance mindset is just, like I said, the result of where everything is up here and the results of your relationships.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say, God, and some people refer to it as the universe or whatever.
Higher power. Yeah.
Sorry?
The higher power, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually kind of interesting to see how much we put our faith, so to speak, in things like our bosses or our clients or, any certain stream of income.
Mm-hmm.
And we become dependent on it and we become attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, money mindset says, and I want to go a little bit deeper into that in a minute, is that, money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways. And I trust that there are a million ways that I haven't yet figured out for money to come to me. So it's really about having, the allowing mindset to help you bring the stuff to you.
And I think, I'll be honest, I think that's one of the biggest things I've been struggling with myself is the whole allowing. And you think you get to a point and you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally good. I can receive, I can take. But sometimes in order to receive, that requires saying no, that we have to be, especially when you're in, coaching businesses and mentoring businesses. Sometimes it really is saying no to people that aren't quite ready to move through your programs, even though they need it. They need to be able to know they need it too. You know what I mean? And I think I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's so true. I mean, just the things that I've been realizing in the last few weeks of how unwilling I even was to receive. I mean, you've got to be willing to open those doors and say, yes, it's coming to me.
Yeah, and it's coming to me, and I have this vision, and I release the way of how it is going to come to pass. I think it's really interesting because I think, especially as therapists and coaches, and actually any kind of professional that wants to help, you stumble across people who can benefit from your help all the time. And it's really about understanding that you can't force feed anyone, and you have to, do your best. But sometimes, you're not going to be a vibrational match to the people that really need it at that point in time. Yeah. And it's really about what I did find out, though. And it's kind of interesting because I'm actually working on this too now, and I've decided that I'm going to do my first workshop. And I'm super excited about that. And it's interesting because you do meet all sorts of people, and some of them, it's perfect for them, and they're saying all these things like, okay, sounds great, but, and after the but, it really doesn't matter anymore. If you have your intentions clear and everything is, according to what you visualize it, it's fine. Some people will say yes, some people will say no. It's really about allowing the people to do whatever they want. It's their story, not yours.
Yeah. And it's like I was thinking, especially with entrepreneurs, and we're going to go into people that are looking to up-level their lives here in just a second too, which is everybody. But in entrepreneurs, we have freebie products for those that need freebie products. We shouldn't be giving freebies away, and or we shouldn't be giving our paid services away as freebies. You know what I mean? And because it really doesn't do anybody any services, and it's like I said, I mean, that puts your client's integrity in jeopardy because they know it's a paid service. They want to pay for it. And it really makes them uncomfortable. And that was the big, mind blower to me. But so what would you say, Noah, to somebody that is wanting more education, wanting to grow and develop and wanting to pay somebody for their services, but they're seeing that they can't right now? What would you say to somebody like that? How to increase that mindset?
Okay, so First of all, I think that it's really a matter of priorities. To a certain, like, of course, when you don't have money, then you have to first work on your money mindset. You can't get a coach, and especially not the kind that you will value the advice of, because it's really really complicated relationship. If we don't pay for something, we don't appreciate it as much as if we would have paid. And it's actually kind of an interesting relationship, because sometimes we will appreciate things more simply because they cost more. um, Brands do it all the time. And so what I really want to talk about is the mindset that you want to get started with, to get the, I call it, open up the faucets, the abundance faucets, and then brings money, and you can choose how to direct it and where to direct it to. And I would always suggest that if you are looking to have more abundance in your life and more prosperity, then doing it, going hand in hand with a coach, with someone who walks the talk, it's always better than doing it alone.
Yeah.
So what I like, the first thing I want people watching this to take from this webinar is that like attracts like. And it's this big thing that we always seem to forget, that if we want a certain quality in our life, we must first think it and experience it from the inside. It doesn't take money to have a good money mindset, but you don't get to have a lot of money and keep a lot of money for long periods of time if you don't have a good money mindset. Right. So think about all these people that are known to, won the lottery and then go back to being broke, a couple of months to a year later.
Yeah, they end up being worse off.
They end up, sorry?
Most of them actually end up being worse off than what they were before they got
Yeah. And it's exactly the inner quality that they're missing, because obviously they had all this money. So what I really want to stress out is that if we want to attract money, if we want to have this abundance mindset, is that we first focus on the calm feelings, the positive emotions that such an end result as what we're looking to achieve will cause us. So imagine, for example, that you already have all the paying clients that you're looking to have in your clinic right now. How would that make you feel? And what's interesting is that sometimes it's not just a one-step process. Sometimes you think about it and you go like, but I feel some sort of contraction. I feel some sort of fear. Maybe, I'm not going to be good enough. Maybe I'm going to disappoint people. Maybe I'm not going to have enough time for myself or for my family. And it's really kind of like a loop that you need to first figure out, like how to really get calm and feeling good when you think about manifesting what you want. And that's the first step. And I think if there's really something to take from this webinar, is to first learn how to generate these calm, relaxed emotions. Even if we're currently stressed or anxious, let's just focus, and I'll give a little bit of tips on how to do that in a little bit. But first of all, it's the calm and relaxed feelings that that bring the mindset that brings the abundance.
Right.
And if you're trying to work it the other way around, you're going to be working much harder and probably will not have the results to show for it. Right. And I'm saying that from experience. I've tried that way too.
Well, and I think you're spot on there, because one of the things that blows people's minds, and it blew mine too, was when somebody told me, well, you got to be grateful for your debt. You've got to be grateful for your lack of abundance, because the thing is once you understand how what you're experiencing, the turmoil and different things like that is actually a gift, then the gratitude comes, then the peace comes, and you're like, oh, So, for example, gosh, I know personally I've had crap in my life. You know what I mean? And it shows up in relationships, it shows up in money, it shows up in many different aspects of my life. But if I can just step back for just a minute and really evaluate what is going on in my life, I can see how this could benefit me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. I think that one of the things that we're really, when something bad happens, we focus on the negative emotions, and we lack the perspective to think about the gifts. And it's actually, I think we can think of whatever hardships we've had in the past. I think if you will make a list of all of them, and you've talked about gratitude, and I think if you do the list and you ask yourself what kind of a lesson or a gift I took from each and every one of these, obstacles and hardships and tough times, then you will find something that you learn, something, inspiring.
Well, for me, the lack of abundance that I was in and I'm getting out of now, that was such a huge gift for me, the poverty, because it gave me a big kick in the pants and told me, hey, you have this talent, you have this talent, you have this talent, you have this talent, you have this talent. You just lack this understanding, this understanding, this understanding. If you pair the two of them together, then guess what? You're out of that situation. But it was that kick in the pants that I had to have in order for me to move forward. You know what I mean? So it was a huge gift. Huge.
Yeah, and we often don't think of these things as gifts until we're actually like forced to, or, we're told to. In my clinic, I will tell people, okay, what was the gift? What was the lesson? And then it goes like snap. You understand something that you haven't understood before. You see the actual, uh, you know, jump that you've made in understanding in whatever it is. And I think that one of the things that I really feel that we cannot do without is understand that the work is never going to be done. I mean, even people that have a lot of money will always have, more work to do, because, it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't stop. Even people that you think, they have it figured out. They have, the house and the car and all the money in the bank and all the investments and everything that they want, they still have, their own issues. And especially when it comes to money, I call it level up. Whatever it is that we are currently experiencing, if we overcome it and we go like, hey, I figured it out, I learned my lesson, I know now, it's part of a lifelong journey. So you'll always have the next step. And, being grateful when this next step arrives and go like, okay, here, I know I've already seen that there is some sort of message or lesson or something that I can take from this. It's amazing. It brings such a different, you focus on the situation in a totally different way. Mm-hmm. And it makes it, it gets you to gratitude in like a heartbeat.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes, this is like I say, sometimes it's literally like, the universe, God, whoever, for me it's God, but he pulls out your gift, but it's wrapped up in ugly wrapping paper and pulled out of a box that he pulled out of the sewer, and it's all yucky and stinky and wet. If you can just dig your fingers in and open it up, you're going to see that there's something great there. There's just something that you really, really needed to get you to the next steps, something to get you to where you need to be. So, I mean, yeah, gratitude, as you're talking about these faucets, and I love that idea, turning on the faucets of abundance is one of the very first ones for me anyway, is gratitude.
Yeah, completely. One of the things that I actually figured out about gratitude is that we usually mistake gratitude with saying thanks, which is, saying thanks is kind of like the ordinary courteous, it's part of living in society. And then people go like, okay, no, you can generate like huge differences in life by being actually grateful. And the magic doesn't happen until you really get to this point where your heart just opens up and you kind of feel the butterflies of, how wonderful are the things in my life. I didn't figure this out until there was this one person who said, like, no, you have to do 30 things. You don't get to grateful at 10 or at 15. You have to write 30 things before you actually feel it. And it's funny because you do the first 10 and the 15 and it's obvious, and you're thankful for your friends and your family and all the good, big ones.
Yeah.
But when you get to, I guess, number 20, it gets interesting. You get to be creative. I remember listing, a couple of restaurants that I like eating in, and they're not even in Israel. And I was like, okay, the fact that I was able to travel to these places and, experience some sort of an experience which I really enjoyed was, all by itself something to be grateful for. And if we are talking about opening up the faucets, then the first thing that I would do is be grateful for not only the things that we have, but for the things that we are about to receive. Because there's like this trick about actually like seeing something as, if I requested it, if I have set my intent on getting it, it's on my way. It's on its way to me. And, once we decide that it's on its way, magical things starts happening. We get the lessons that are, exactly, sorry for that. We get the lessons that are exactly what we want. And, you talked about pulling it out and like, dusting off or taking out the rubbish. Mm-hmm. And sorry for that. I'm sorry. I just have this noise. And I will.
You can't even hear it.
That was unexpected.
No worries. I didn't even hear it, so you were good.
Oh, okay. No, it was like so loud. Anyway, so what I was saying is that if we start getting, our thanks, and we go like, okay, we're thankful because this is coming to me. Then it's an entire shift of perspective. You look at whatever comes your way as a way to get to what you want, as a lesson, as just a stepping stone.
Yeah, you're right. And I think I love that idea, of being grateful for what is coming to you, act as though it's actually on its way. And see, I know that trying to think how to explain this. For me, sometimes we get into that whole doubt thing, and so that bridge that we were trying to get, just that last bridge for it to cross over into us, once we have that doubt, it's almost like we're like, oh, it's not going to come over, or it's going to hack us to death when it comes over, or something like that. And so we burn that bridge immediately with doubt. And I think if we can always remember, like you were saying, the gratitude, there's always something, then it makes us trust just a little bit more that it's okay to have it come to us. You know what I mean?
You're talking about the trusting that the good will come to us, or that it's okay that the experience.
Well, I'm saying like, okay, so if we're here and what we're attracting is over here, sometimes in between we have doubt, and it's causing this to happen. We remove the doubt, there we go. It happens. And so we have to be so careful of doubting the laws of the universe, doubting ourselves, because doubt too, I would think would also be one of those things that would definitely turn off the faucets to keep it from coming to us. We have to.
I think that when we go to doubt, we are actually, when we really research what doubt is, we uncover fear. And it's always kind of like, if you're talking about a mindset, you're always either in more of a fear-oriented mindset or in a loving-oriented mindset, a trusting mindset. Okay. I think that's like a big thing to distinguish. If we have doubt, what are we doubtful about, and what's the underlying fear? Is it that I'm not good enough? Is it that I'm not worthy? It usually, if you drill down, you come back to very basic human emotions, like the underlying cause of the fear is that I'm not worthy, that I'm not good enough, that I will fail, that people will, make fun of me. All these things.
Boot off. Sorry. I gotta take my boot off, but continue. That's what the noise is.
Oh, that's fine. So yeah, what I was starting to say is that this doubt that we have, it's actually, for me, it's kind of a call to, look, inspect, go within. What's in there? What are we doubtful about? And what is it about what's happening that is causing us not to trust?
Yeah.
And it brings me to what I wanted to say in terms of, like, I always like to get down to the actual technical, how do we get it done? Because it's like all good and well to talk about mindset and how to remove doubt and everything, but then people go to like the actual items and they need these action items. And I'm always, happy to give out these, okay, if you do this and this and that, things start happening. With your permission, I'll be happy to go into the technical, how-tos.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
So the first thing I would, okay. So I would love for people watching this to, do this mental note of start by writing down what they want. Let's do like what I want for Christmas kind of list. And from this list, I think we usually, even if we write down what we want, we forget some crucial elements. And one of them, the first one, is how it's going to feel when I get what I want. What are the qualities that I'm going to experience? Is it going to be like, calmness? Is it going to be happy? If I got something that I wanted, how am I going to use it? And when I use it, how is it going to make me feel? And
I think a lot of this is also getting into the clarity and the details, because, you can say happy, but what does happy look like? Kind of a thing. Like for me, if I'm talking about abundance, I would describe it as my heart is literally bursting over. It's overflowing, and I don't have enough room to receive it, so I have to give some of it away. You know what I mean? That's to me what abundance is. So what is happiness? What is this cheer? What is this joy? How does that feel? And you've got to be able to imagine it. And if you can imagine it, you'll experience it in that moment. And then you've got to take notes about what you're experiencing.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more than imagining it. It's actually like attracting that to you. I mean, if you're imagining something well enough, then the mind doesn't actually have the ability to distinguish between it's actually happening right now or I'm just feeling good because I've imagined it to be. And when you get to that point, usually two things happen. One, on the way, all these doubts and fears come up, and they're like little warning signs going like, hey, address me, please. And, see what's in there, why we have these contractions, these uneasy feelings when we're thinking about manifesting what we want. And then if we are thinking about it and it feels awesome to the point as you described it, there's no more, it's like so bursting, then how is it, like, how does it feel in my body? And not only that, like, how does my life look when during this period of time when I'm feeling this way? And I think a lot of the things that we're looking to manifest, we look at a very narrow angle of, okay, I want to get it, and when I get it, it's going to be like this thing that's going to change my life, but I have no real idea of how it's going to feel the day after or a week after. Am I still going to be happy about it? Is my heart still going to be bursting with joy? Is it going to turn into this calm, happy feeling? we don't give enough attention, in my opinion, to the qualities that we're looking to manifest long term. Because Christmas is just one day a year, but like what happens after that?
Right. You're right. And that's actually an incredible point. That's actually something I haven't thought of, because I'm so personally wrapped up in the here and the now, maybe like a few weeks into the future, or maybe a month or two. But how do I make this last? How do I make it stretch? How do I make it long term? And as I'm sitting here saying that, we say the very same things about our budgets. How do I make it stretch? How do I make it last? How do I make it long term? Wow, that's kind of a mind blower. Thank you. I love that.
So yeah, I think that one of the things that we're actually doing as manifestors is focusing on the here and now, and then making it as so damn magnetic that it just transfers into the next day and the next hour and the next week and month.
Sorry, taking out a 2-year-old.
Huh? That's fine.
I have the door locked, even. But yeah, it is. It's like you're saying. I mean, it's how do you keep this going? How do you keep the wheels going? How do you keep the faucets on? So I love this. Keep going. I'm getting all kinds of juicy tidbits from this, Noah.
Okay, great. So what I really wanted to do, and I also forward everyone that wants the link to the exercise about the money faucets, is that what I want, after we've painted the very vivid mental picture of how it looks like to live our lives having what we wanted manifest itself. And seeing, if any, work needs to be done, and maybe uncovering of a few limiting beliefs, because that's usually a lot, of the along the process, many limiting beliefs pop up. So what I want to be doing is actually sending a signal to God, to the universe, and that means that we're actually willing not only to accept what we want and what we declare that we want when we write it down, but also all sorts of good unexpected things.
Yeah.
And that actually brings a certain new dimension of just knowing that good things that I haven't expected, things that are even better than what I initially thought I wanted, are going to come my way.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about money mindset, one of my favorite exercises are the ones that go like, okay, if I want more money, what kind of faucets can I leave open? And it goes back to if there's something that I have around the house that I've never used, am I going to just keep it there, or I'm gonna post a sale of it on Craigslist, on eBay, whatever. It's not because we're going to get rich by doing that. What I also recommend is going, putting ourselves on Fiverr, or putting ourselves on the neighborhood billboard with whatever we're good at, whatever we feel like we'd be happy doing. And it's not so much as for actually starting to do all these extra things, as in to signal, okay, we're ready to have money come, in all sorts of ways.
Well, and as you clear out your spaces, it creates more of the things you want to be able to come to you, and I'm a relationship coach. We talk about, clearing out the bad so we can have room for the good. And I actually have a meditation around that. But, it's the same thing with your environment. It's the same thing with your space. It's the same thing with your finances. If you have clutter, or the stuff that's, in a sense, damming you up, if you can get rid of it, it allows more of the good to come in. Then the overflow happens. Then you start to think of ways to give back, because everybody wants to give back. Everybody wants to feel like they're a good person. And it's like you said too, like one of the biggest lies that we have been fed in human society is that in order to be a good person, you can't have all this kind of stuff. And that's not true. It's so not true. I mean, you know, and I'm going back to the whole God thing here, but you look at him, he's like the greatest, best, most awesome, most wonderful person, and he's richer than anybody that's ever been. That's a blatant lie that we've been fed. That's a blatant lie that we have believed, that we've bought into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And if we start to circle back to the like attracts like concept, we come to realize that we cannot attract, you know, what we want with this kind of thinking. We have to go, okay, no, hard work will attract more hard work. Mm-hmm. Lack mindset will attract more lack mindset. I can't or I shouldn't will attract more of those. And when we are actually aware of, you know, how much these things define our present and our future, we become, I think, a lot more selective in what we allow to actually, you know, come into our space and our, you know, minds in a way.
You know, and this is where I go into, I think that money is in a sense a bit of a relationship, because as we figure out our worth, that we have worth, that we are incredible people, we become more selective of the people that we actually let into our spaces. You know, we don't just let anybody and everybody in, because some people are not energetically in alignment with us. And it's like you said, I mean, once you become more aware, you are going to start being more selective of what you're allowing in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really like that.
I think that what you really come to realize, especially if you're talking about relationships, is that you start looking at your relationships in a way of, does it bring to me more of the qualities that I want to experience in my life, or less of those? Mm-hmm. So if you have this person in your life that's saying, okay, no, you can't do that, or it's too hard, or I tried that and failed, or whatever it is, and you listen to him and you allow him to become part of your space, then, you know, like attracts like. You become more, you know, we tend to become the average of the people who are closest to us. Mm-hmm. And getting to the point where you're like, okay, I, even if you love certain people, you usually have to you know, be very picky about the ones that you will actually allow in to your inner circle, because these are the people who are going to define, you know, your mindset and your overall well-being.
You're right. You're very right. You're very right. You have to be so selective with those kinds of things. Now, I will also want to point out, you know, unless if your life or your mental health is in jeopardy, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to kick people out of your life completely.
Yeah, obviously.
I think this is the way it usually goes, and this has been the case. As we continue to move and grow and develop as people, we have people either decide to move with us, or they can't follow us, and so they end up again falling off and allowing a space for new people to come in. Really, basically, the whole core of this is self-growth, because in our relationships and money and everything like that, there's so many parallels. And if we really want those things that we're trying to attract, we've got to be able to grow to meet that standard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think that one of the things that we usually kind of are blind to at first is that we say we want to grow. We say we want to have something, experience something, whether it's a relationship or more abundance or, you know, a certain experience in life. And then the things start to shift to give us what we want, and we go like, hey, no, wait. And we don't see how, you know, for example, losing our job is going to bring us more abundance, or, you know, losing our best friend is going to bring us more, you know, of the kind of relationships that we want to have in our lives. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's really about, having that trust that you talked about, and that calm, from what I can say, calm mindset that goes like, okay, I know that I attract the qualities that I focus on, and from that point on, actually notice what you manage to attract to your life.
You're right. You're right. And I love it. It's so perfect. So we've got about 9 more minutes. Do you have anything else that you really, really just want to hit home with us today?
Yeah. So what I want to do is actually like ask everyone that wants to experience, more of that abundant mindset, to go ahead and, write down what kind of a person that that has that mindset. Let's say I call it your future self. Okay.
Ideal self. Yeah.
Yeah, and you give that person some thought about, like, what's his life, her life look like, what's the dominant feelings and the dominant relationships are like, what are the qualities of these relationships. And I think we get to the point where when we really start visualizing it, when we really start to be accurate with what we want, all these ways to be that person start showing up if we're just calm enough and willing to notice it. And I think that one of the best things that I would recommend is to write things down in like a notebook that you can check back with, because the most amazing thing happens when you really, when you get into the right mindset. What I found, and was kind of interesting actually, is that a lot of the things that I really, really wanted and were, a part of my agenda for a very long time, I would write them down. I would do all these kinds of manifesting things. At some point I would get stressed or tense, or, going like, I have doubts. What does it mean? What does it say about me if I don't get it, if I am unable to manifest it in my life? And then after a while, I would just do the whole release and let go thing. Be like, okay, I'm willing to give it up. I'm willing to let it go. And when you write it down and you go back to these things, you see that they just come, they just manifest themselves after you let go, after you've, just completely calmed yourself to the point of forgetting about it. And it's true with relationships, and it's true with money. And I would say that the main takeaway from this would be, if we want something and we're unable to unstress about it, and we're unable to relax, then it's not gonna be here and now. We're gonna reject it. We're unmagnetic to that quality, to money, to that whatever it is that we want. And sometimes just release and write it down, come back to it. It makes a world of difference if you're willing to, just put it aside, table it for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. What you were saying exactly I have a meditation that I wrote a few years ago, and it's called the Ideal Self Meditation. And you actually meet with your future self, and your future self starts telling you things, and how do you become this person that you're aspiring to? And so, yeah, I love that. I mean, there's so many things that I'm like, oh yeah, this lines up here, this lines up here, this lines up here. So I don't know. I'm excited. I think this is one of the best webinars I've ever not only attended, but also listened to and hosted. So I love this, Noah. You did a great job. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
So you've got about 5 more minutes. You were talking about a workshop that you had going on. Do you want to tell us about that and how people can go check you out?
Yeah, so it's so first of all, the blog that I write at is missmanifesting.com. Mm-hmm. And I've actually written about this exact quality of calm feelings right now. And the meditation aspects of manifesting, being in this calm, meditative like state in order to attract what you want. And the workshop that I'm doing is kind of like a lecture meets get your insights, because one of the things that we do, we have all this knowledge, and then we have this, books and workshops and whatever, and it gets to the point where we have all this knowledge, but we don't see the kind of change that we want to see in our lives. And it's really about this gap between knowing and feeling, knowing and understanding, knowing and that, like, as you said, this poof moment. So my meditation plus lecture workshop is about that. It's about like getting from the point where we understand what we need to do to actually internalizing that knowledge and acting upon it. And I'll be posting more about it, I'm guessing pretty soon. So if anybody wants to tune in, that will be great. And so what I have to say about, to sum up the whole money faucets thing, I think is like, if you write it down and you focus on what you want to be and how to be more like it at this present moment, then you'll start noticing a shift. And, just follow the shift, see what lessons it has, what gifts that it brings you. Being calm reveals so many things. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. You're spot on. So how do people follow you? Like, what's your website? What do you have online, like on Facebook? Like, how do people follow you so that way they can get in on your things?
So I think like missmanifesting.com, miss as in MS manifesting. You can find me both on Facebook and on the website. And you can do it also on Twitter, but I'm not very much of a Twitter fan, so I'm working on it. I'm getting there, but still not so much.
I get that. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I should probably do a little bit more on Twitter. So I get there. I'm there. I get that. Noah, thank you so much for being on with us today. This was an incredible, incredible webinar. I absolutely enjoyed every single moment of it. So thank you. And we would love, I think we're going to ask you back sometime soon. So
I would love to be back. And thank you for having me, Erin. And I'm looking forward to meeting you again.
Definitely. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being with us today, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.